What's up, people? Welcome back to the Boxing Objective. And given the developments in the news in the last couple of days, I've decided to do a video on Eddie Hearn. So this is Eddie Hearn versus everybody else, part 2. Before I begin, I just want to make it clear that I'm only calling upon the news as I see it, based on all of the evidence that's been said, all of the things that have been released in the press, the YouTube community, and so on and so forth. So just bear that in mind as you listen to my opinions about the situation as a whole. I'm assuming that everybody now knows that the undisputed fight didn't happen, and it looks to a lot of the whole boxing community that maybe this isn't Eddie Hearn's fault, but it's now looking as if the narrative that's being pushed is that Eddie Hearn is somehow to blame for the fight not happening. How so? When publicly it was Eddie Hearn who dedicated many months of his time in an attempt to make the fight happen. Whereas on the Tyson Fury side of things, we had complete radio silence. Even though Tyson Fury has got 2 promoters, Frank Warren and Bob Arum, it seemed to be Eddie Hearn doing all the lead work. And whenever Bob Arum or Frank Warren did chime in, it was to criticize. Now, from the beginning of this fiasco, all the way up to the point where the third Fury Wilder fight was announced, the only person that kind of seemed to have anything good to say about the whole thing was John Fury, Tyson Fury's dad. And he gave an interview recently for BT Sport. It's available on YouTube. Go and have a look. And he gives me the impression that he is not happy with the fact that the fight fell through. He wanted his son to fight AJ. And given everything that he said, it sounds to me as if maybe, just possibly, Tyson Fury had very little to do with the decision that was made to go through with the third Wilder fight. Now, I don't know. I think something about it, the whole thing seems to be funny. I said this in my Fury vs Wilder 3 video, the one with the terrible audio that I'm thinking of taking down and redoing. But I said it in that video that I'm not sure how much Tyson Fury actually knew and how much of it is actually to blame on his team. Well, at least that's what I thought. Until Michael Benson released a tweet quoting Tyson Fury. Michael Benson wrote, "Tyson Fury has blamed the AJ collapse on so-called world-class lawyers, but also said of Eddie Hearn, every Saturday he announces the fight would be finalized next week. Pretty stupid, all about ego. Then it's egg on your face. That's what happens when you talk too much." The way I see it, I think Eddie Hearn's pretty lucky that he went out there and did his job, because if he had failed to secure the site feed that he was chasing after, then he would have looked absolutely terrible and he wouldn't have had a leg to stand on. Because they would have said, look, we told you he couldn't deliver. We've decided to go and fight Wilder for a third time. Now, I don't know for sure, but that's pretty much how it looks to me. And I'm sorry, but I don't think anybody does more talking than Tyson Fury. Why would you announce it that you've spoken to Prince Khalid, you're happy with everything and the fight's going through, only for within 24 hours to announce that you're going to be fighting Deontay Wilder for the third time? Just doesn't make any sense. And the thing is, I know Tyson Fury is not scared to fight him. AJ, I mean. I don't think they're frightened. I don't think any boxer is really scared to fight another boxer. But the promoters? Now, those guys are absolutely terrified of another promoter gaining any kind of leverage over them. And that's where the politics come in. The politics is what's wrong with the sport. It's the reason why we don't get the fights. I mean, we do get the fights, but a lot of the time we don't get them at the time when we really wanted them. We always have to wait. I think it's crazy when people start saying, oh, he's scared, he don't want to fight and all that kind of stuff, because I don't know. I think it takes a hell of a lot of courage to be a boxer. And I don't see what fear actually has to do with courage, in the sense of fear preventing somebody from showing courage. Because without fear, courage wouldn't exist, would it? So none of these guys are scared to step between the ropes and go at it and find out who's the best. It's just the politics. Also, I think there's a lot of people out there on both sides of the pond, in the US and in the UK, that feel some type of way about how well Eddie Hearn has actually done and how well Eddie Hearn is contributing to the sport. So, like I said in the previous video about the resistance he's facing, you know, this is also part of it. And let's be real, They could have sabotaged Eddie Hearn big time with all of this. It could have damaged the Matchroom banner severely. Maybe it has a little bit, because not everybody's going to believe, you know, that Eddie Hearn isn't to blame. There's probably a small percentage of people that think it's all on Eddie Hearn. But personally, I don't think Eddie's to blame at all. I think him doing his job saved him. But it's funny how people's egos, it's never any different. It doesn't matter what level you're on, what facet of life you're in. It's always the same thing. And it's kind of like, if you've given somebody no reason to dislike you, yet they dislike you, then obviously it's not your problem, it's their problem. But it also means that you might have done something right. And I think Eddie Hearn has just been consistently doing a lot of things right. And people don't like it. Straight, simple. I mean, he might have made things a bit difficult for himself with Shelley Finkel, calling him Shirley Winkle for about 2 years. But apart from that, I mean, you don't hear of many cases of, you know, people having issues with getting paid from Eddie Hearn. You don't hear them having any kind of legal action taken out against him when they've parted ways. He just seems to be walking the right sort of path. I can say the same for Bob Arum too. Apart from all of this recently with the Undisputed fight and the fact that ESPN, along with Top Rank, could do a better job at promoting their fighters and promoting their fights, I think Bob Arum's pretty much a straight shooter as well. Frank Warren, clearly sometimes he has a few issues with his fighters, especially when they're parting ways. And I don't think that the Finsbury promotion shows are as good as the Matchroom shows. But they do have a lot of talent over there as well. And they can put on a lot of good fights. But make no mistake about it, all of these promotional companies are rivals. Fierce rivals. And it's their rivalry that is pushing them all to do better. You know? And I just think that when you think about all the great leaders that these promotional companies have, there comes a time when great leaders have to put their beefs, their egos aside, sit around a table and work things out for the greater good. Because in the long run, it's only the sport that's going to suffer. And we the fans who's going to suffer. And we're the ones who's giving you our hard-earned cash, who's buying the pay-per-views. So you got to look after us. But anyway, that's me. That's all I've got to say on this subject. I've started an Instagram page, The Boxing Objective. Have a look, see if you like it. And if you haven't already, like, comment and subscribe. And I will catch you lot on the next video. Peace.